What is up, everybody? My name is Matt Drew. I'm the host of Go Big Live Real Estate Investors Podcast, and we are the show to listen to and to watch if you are a experienced real estate investor that is looking to scale and doing bigger, chunkier commercial real estate deals that deliver exponentially higher financial impact on your life. So you don't have to be busy chasing small deals that pay you chump change, but you can focus on buying, let's say, one bigger deal a year that delivers life-changing results and gets you to the goal of replacing your income and becoming financially independent so you can stop trading your time for dollars much quicker than the way it took me. Because I've been doing a real estate for 19 years. If you've been listening to this show before, and during my first 11, I spent chasing smaller deals, smaller multifamily that took me 11 years at 25 properties, 76 doors in order to replace my income. And I was able to achieve that same result in one deal in 1 year and replace my wife's income when I transitioned to larger commercial deals, and haven't looked back. I've been focused on doing that and pushing the envelope ever since. This is one of the last few podcasts I'm recording. For those of you who have been listening, or maybe you haven't, this has usually been an interview podcast. If you haven't, definitely go back and listen to older episodes where I interview the titans of commercial real estate that have the Gino Barbaro, Matt Faircloth, the Reed Goosens, Tyler Cauble, Ashley Kerr, Paula Nichols, those people on how they did their first big deal and extracting out the excruciating detail on what it led up to them. So in this episode, I am going to cover, the last one I did was on my why, okay? It was why I was obsessive over achieving financial freedom. Reason being, long story short, is I lost both my parents in my 20s. I saw two hardworking people doing everything the right way, and they died basically with nothing left over. It was to my brother and I. They were living paycheck to paycheck. We didn't even know it. And so I decided I did not want to participate in that system. That's the reason why I became obsessed with achieving financial independence, so I could spend time with my loved ones and really live life by my own design and on my own terms, okay? So that's the why and my why, all right? And the reason why I covered that was not only for you to get a better sense of who I am and my origin and foundation, but also for you to think about your why as well, okay? In this show, we are going to cover how to set up the goalposts for your commercial real estate journey, okay? Because you may think that you want to do it, but if you don't have an actual end destination in mind, like you're not going to be able to measure your progress towards that goal if you don't have a destination. So we're going to calculate that and go through the math on that and what you can use to apply in your own journey to set up that destination in multiple phases as well. But the reason why your why is so important is because your journey is going to be hard. My transition from residential to commercial, my first commercial deal, was the hardest deal or transition of my life, okay? So even with me on your team, if you hire me as your advisor, because this is what I do for my active business, is I help residential real estate investors achieve financial independence much quicker through buying larger deals, you're going to face curveballs, resistance, and setbacks along the journey, all right? So your why is going to be your guardian angel in those darkest hours. It's what keeps you moving forward when things get tough. Because if you do not have a big enough why, for instance, you are going to face resistance, adversity, and challenges, and you're more likely to give up because you don't have that thing that's compelling you for that, all right? So let's talk about setting up goals, right? A lot of people, when I get on sales calls with prospective clients, I ask them in the discovery process, it's like, all right, what's your end goal? What's ultimately the goal? And 9 times out of 10, I have these prospective clients tell me a certain unit count, right? I want to have 100 units of apartments, okay? Here's why unit count is the wrong goal. This is where people get things wrong in terms of setting that up. So why is unit count, square footage, or number of properties a bad way to set goals? Really, it's because it's arbitrary. These numbers might stroke your ego or give you bragging rights, but they don't actually define what success looks like for you. You could own 100 units and they could not be making any money, okay? You could own 25 properties and them not making any money whatsoever, all right? Or you might be buying junk properties that may be cash flowing a lot, but really don't provide value in the back end within which to extract that value and scale your real estate portfolio at light speed. So what should you be focusing on instead? This is what we're going to talk about in this video. If your goal is to create the big, beautiful life, living on your own terms, then the first major milestone should be, number one, is replacing your income. So if you're married, then the next step is replacing your spouse's income. But let's focus on you first, because you're the one that's watching this video and actually wants to do this, okay? This milestone, financial independence, can be reached sooner if your living expenses are lower. Now, this seems obvious, okay? But a client told me back in 2007, when I was a newer agent, when I was scaling my own real estate portfolio, he said this thing, it stuck with me to this day. It's very simple and stupid sounding, but it stuck with me. So I'm going to share it with you. If you do not spend any money, then you do not need to make any money. All right. Now, this doesn't mean you have to make drastic lifestyle changes like selling your house and moving into an apartment. But let me ask you, when's the last time you actually went through your credit card statements and your bank statements line by line in the last 90 days? And then when's the last time you actually went with a yellow highlighter and highlighted all of those discretionary items that you had on there that really weren't like necessary? Remember, if you are able to decrease your lifestyle expenses, then you can actually replace your income a lot sooner. This is the reason why if you're young, this is a great time to get started before you have a family, before you have all these other obligations that us, like people that are doing the later stages adulting out there, have to juggle, because there's that lifestyle creep that happens when you get older. When I was originally traveling with my father and brother on vacations, that sort of thing, we would stay in like flea bag motels or condos that he found off of some classified ad that were like absolutely 100% like ski vots, like felt like my skin crawling when we checked into these places. And my wife and I traveling through Europe, for instance, or with my fraternity brothers, when we went on a Euro trip, for instance, sleeping in a hostel in a room filled with 10 bunks was fine. Fast forward to now, I don't want to stay in anything less than a JW Marriott. We travel with the family because we value comfort and all that. It's very difficult to go back to, let's say, a Motel 6. And then another example, like my wife and I used to go out to eat twice a week at $100 a meal. That's $600 a month. That's half of a mortgage payment. Actually, it's half of our mortgage payment on our own house. So once you've dialed in your expenses and figured out your bare minimum financial target, then we can start engineering your path to financial independence. So before we go into that, there's some terminology here that's going to allow you to understand like how I come up with these numbers, right? So this is ROI versus ROE. This is the key to scaling faster. So I know you're probably familiar with return on investment or ROI, but are familiar with return on equity or ROE. Here's why this matters. The framework I use eliminates your own capital as a bottleneck to scaling your real estate portfolio. So I help clients with raising the equity from passive investors, securing the best debt from banks, and finding off-market deals with massive upside. The goal is to find opportunities within which you can marry passive investor capital with bank financing, for instance, and then rapidly increase the value of those properties in 2 years or less so that you can actually force the appreciation of properties, cash at refi, pay your investors back, deepen that relationship with those capital partners, and also widen your network at the same time strategically. So for example, if you buy a property for $1 million and you force the appreciation of 1.6 million, you can refinance, return all your investor capital, and still own the deal. And at that point in time, ROI becomes irrelevant because you can't divide a number by 0. Okay. So that's the reason why ROE or return on equity is a more real metric that actually matters. It tells you how much your equity actually pays you in cash flow. So for my company and my clients, our ROE target is 11%. Myself and also my clients, we're typically investing in secondary or tertiary markets across the country. This formula may not work if you are investing in a primary market, let's say New York City or Los Angeles or Miami or even Chicago, for instance. But most investors across the country are owning income property in secondary and tertiary markets because they can actually achieve these financial metrics for the average investor out there. So 11% is our target. So if an asset performs consistently below 11%, we either refinance the property and pull cash out to rebalance our debt to equity ratio, or we'll sell the asset and reallocate the capital, for instance. Okay. So 11%, remember that. So we're going to reverse engineer your path to $100,000 in annual income. The reason why I say $100,000 is because most of these sales calls I get on with prospective clients is that I want my real estate assets paying me $100,000 a year. That's going to give me enough income to be able to replace the income from my job, for instance. So we're just going to use that $100,000. If it's less, then you can achieve the goal much faster and with less property. So let's say this is your phase 1 goal, to replace your income of $100,000 a year. Here's how we calculate how much equity you're going to need in commercial real estate deals. All right. So we're going to take that $100,000 and divide it by 0.11. So that is going to determine you need about $900,000 in equity in order to produce that type of income. And now, since we typically leverage properties back up to 80% loan to value after we get done executing the business plan, the value add business plan on those deals, we'll divide that number by 0.2 to get our target acquisition volume. All right. So $900,000 divided by 0.2, because 80, 20, remember, comes up with about $4.5 million in total assets. Now, that might seem like a big number right now, but here's where the magic happens. This is the power of momentum in scaling your portfolio. If you focus on landing your first $1 million year deal, all right, the time and effort you put in, even when it feels like nothing is happening, okay, like you're making deposits into the universe of time and energy, it seems like it goes nowhere. You don't get any direct, demonstrable, instantaneous results. But those efforts are like bank deposits and will compound. So most of that invisible work will pay you back in ways that you don't even see yet. For instance, all those properties you walked, made offers on, the offers went nowhere. One of those deals is going to fall apart. The broker's going to come back to you because you had all your, proverbial crap together, and you presented yourself as somebody that had the ability to close. That deal comes back to you and they say, hey, I know you weren't the highest bidder on this property, but is your offer still good? Stuff like that. All the people that are out there in your sphere of influence, other investors, for instance, that know that you are on the ascent to buying a larger deal, for instance, they start bringing deals your way. All of this stuff starts to compound, right? Just like bank accounts. So because you land that first deal, the second, third, fourth, and fifth will happen in like rapid succession to that one. And this happens with all of my clients. The first one is absolutely the hardest. But then the second, third, fourth, and fifth one start dropping. This is the reason why I spend so much time with my clients on their OPM strategy or other people's money strategy, because a deal can come your way under very mysterious circumstances, just land in your lap, just like that. So let's say you do this, right? So year one, you close $1 million deal. And in year two, you close a $2 million deal, then a $3 million deal, all right? So that's $6 million in assets under 2 years. Enough to crush your $100,000 income goal. And then once you hit that milestone, when you achieve financial independence, you're no longer trading your time for dollars and you're covering your living expenses. They don't have that gun against your head from that I need to earn a paycheck in order to keep the lights on a home. Imagine what happens when your W-2 job is no longer a distraction, all right? This is exactly what happened to me. At 33 years old, I'm 41 right now, I was able to go all in on my real estate business. No job, no distractions. And that's when I really poured gasoline on the fire and scaled from $3 million in holdings to $18 million in holdings. So that's the power of focused effort and compounding results. I hope you got value out of this. The next episode I'm going to drop next week is actually going to be dedicated to, now that we have your why, now that we have your goal set up, the next step is going to be how to develop an asset acquisition strategy for your market, okay? There's going to be what type of deal size should I target based upon my situation and market? What type of asset class should I, for instance, okay? We're going to go into that as well. So you can really, with crystal clarity, be able to communicate to the world what type of deal you're looking at. And also there's going to be fundamentals and dynamics within your marketplace to have a certain amount of abundance of that deal type and product that you are going to have a high probability of landing that deal, and also landing that deal within the next 12 months, and also have enough room to go or runway based upon products available in that space within which to have that cycle repeatable and scalable from there. So anyways, please drop a comment and subscribe. Anything you can do to support the show, this is the best way to support me, because I put a ton of free real estate content out there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, not because my ego cares about it, even though it does a little bit, but this is how the algorithm recognizes that people are listening here, and it more broadly gets distributed out to people that are just like you. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.